Welcome to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. This is Will Crozier.
And I'm Nikki Westcombe. We are the founders of Nexus Performance. Joining us on this wild ride is our heavyweight coaching team, ready to unleash their expertise to solve any problems in your journey to getting strong and jacked.
Through our real-world experience, we hope to break things down in a digestible, applicable, and entertaining way.
So pump up the volume and let's get into this.
How are you guys?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you for ages.
I know we have literally been on the go
Yeah, we haven't really...
all around town. We caught up with Bass while we were in Sydney.
Oh, good.
And we
When was that?
Last week.
week.
Wednesday.
Uh-huh.
Did a podcast with him.
Oh, awesome.
I did the bench session with him as well.
How was that?
Will learnt some benching tips. Did ya?
Yeah, well, we both did. As in, like, neither of us had benched much for a long time.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, hey, let's
Yeah.
just wing it.
How good.
But it
Yeah.
was fun. It was a fun...
It was actually a
that'd be
really
awesome.
good episode. They were just talking about their competitive history and stuff like that. So
For the first half, and then we talked about his kids and, like, training his
Tiani and that.
Yeah.
Tiani versus Thor and stuff like that.
How good is that?
Slightly
Could you
different.
imagine Tiani versus Thor?
It's so cool. I love
Head-to-head.
it. She's so long now.
She'd definitely put up it. I reckon she's a bit sassy. Hey, I reckon she.
She's from Felicia. She's sassy as fuck. That's good. I love them.
sure.
They've actually got great personalities.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I've already hit record on this, so
Right,
I'm
so we'll
just
start from here.
just timing this
We'll
out.
just I guess we just start with what's happening with you. You just
Well, just everyone,
you're in-
hello,
you're in prep?
welcome.
Well, hello, welcome back.
We are joined
Go
here
back,
with
listen
Hattie.
to all the previous episodes.
We
Yep.
are joined here with Hattie. I'm just going to put this.
No, we don't have to. Yeah, every episode I'm like, maybe we should introduce this person, but then I'm like, actually, no, you probably probably aware.
Yeah.
But you're in comp prep right now.
I am. So I am less than 9 weeks out, essentially, like 8.5
single
weeks
digits.
out.
Fun weeks. When's it
Yeah.
start getting hard for you?
So, to be honest, I left this prep really late. So I only just started dieting 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I'm 3 kilos down.
Mm.
And
Aggressive.
and it's not even aggressive. It's higher calories than
Okay.
what I was on last time.
Mm.
The reason being is last year when I started to get ready, I was like 7% body fat
Yeah.
for 8 weeks, 9 weeks,
Pretty tough.
easily.
Yeah.
The scary thing was like I was in such a rhythm. Sure, I was hungry, but it wasn't anything where I was like, whereas when I started this prep 3 weeks ago, the first week that I started dieting, I've never complained so much in my life. Like I think we had a mild case of COVID, so I was just exhausted. All I wanted to do was sleep.
You've been traveling a lot.
We were
too.
traveling and I wasn't in my home environment, and I just noticed I was like, oh, I'm not really enjoying this like I normally do. Normally when it's diet, it's like there's like this kind of like little devil in there that's like kind of like, let's go.
Yeah, it's a bit of a.
And I
it's a
noticed
challenge.
that first week I was like, oh, where's that part of me that loves this? And I was like, should I even compete? Like, because before, from last year's show to this year's show, I didn't do a build because I had back
You
pain.
get back. Yeah.
So when I came back from Mexico, so we did our trip, came home, I was in serious pain.
Mm.
And I had to spend 16 weeks doing a rehabilitation phase.
Yeah.
Then I went up to maintenance as my intensity started, and then it was like, oh, I've got 20 weeks to go, so I've got 5 weeks to increase calories up a little bit, push a bit of intensity,
Not much.
and then
To then
start
be able to pull back.
Yeah. So it's funny, like I always get DEXAs. I've had DEXAs for like 12 years, and what's really funny, I got one done probably about 20 weeks out from this show, so about 8 weeks ago or something like that, and I'd only just recovered back the muscle that I'd essentially lost in my previous prep.
Yeah.
It does get to that. So, like, see a lot of bodybuilders get to that point.
Yeah.
Where essentially they're just they present with like almost the same physique. Maybe it's like 1% difference or whatever, but like you're just going through those waves year to year, which is fine because you're at a high level.
And I just noticed, I was like, okay, because that was going to be the kind of direction. It was like, do I compete or do I not compete? If I'm below where I want to be, I was leaner as well, actually, on that DEXA. So I was like, okay, well, and I'd actually lost about 0.5 kilo of muscle down my right side of my leg, which is where all the nerve damage, all the nerve discomfort was coming from, irritation. So I was just like, okay, I'm not in a worse position, but I'm not better.
Yeah.
And I noticed how that kind of played on me because I always want to be just that little bit better.
Of course.
And so I'm like, okay, I'll give it a go. And we decided to, keep food high for as long as we can. But I realized as well, it's like I don't really enjoy a late prep. I like to cruise. I like to just
feel prepared
and add diet breaks in and refeeds in. Whereas this time, I'm not going to have that luxury. Not that it's terrible. It's just what I'm not used to it. Yeah. And there's all this.
You kind of feel like you're stringing weeks together rather than coming in off a back of some momentum.
Yeah. It was just a different prep. Like every prep's different.
Of course.
I think when you do a build, you're so ready to diet.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in that. I was maintaining on 2,800, 2,900 calories. Easy.
Yeah.
Hungry.
It's similar to powerlifting in some ways, in that, like, for a prep in powerlifting, like you can do a lot during, let's just say you call it prep 12 weeks. But if you have a really good off season and build up and you're kind of like ahead in strength, overall strength, general strength at that point, then it's really easy to bring it in. You're just kind of like landing the plane in those last 12 weeks, just like kind of like just eeping out the little bits, getting better versus trying to like build as well as kind of like, I don't know, it's just a little bit harder if you don't take it seriously until 12, or you don't have a chance to in your case until that kind of prep comes around. So
especially because your comps are kind of not as readily available as what like a powerlifting comp is for Will. Like obviously there's higher level powerlifting comps that he could do.
Yes.
Which is what he prefers to do for competition's sake and stuff like that. But for him, going and doing like a regional comp is a little bit more available. Whereas for you, like you don't have as much availability with comps unless you have to travel internationally or something like that to go and do some of the pro shows.
The prep is a lot different. Like most of my clients would stay, I think, like 90% ready most of the time. Like they're only like they're pretty like
it's the finessing,
like they could go and do a comp and just like decide to do a comp in 6 weeks and just do like a short peaking thing, and they wouldn't have the best comp of their life, but they could
do it.
They could definitely do it and do pretty damn well. Whereas in bodybuilding, you don't really get that opportunity.
No, and I think I talk about this all the time. I think a lot of people miss the mark because they don't have the same intent in their process, in their build, like they do in a cut. It's like, I said, it's like as soon as I start cutting it, I noticed I was like, all right, got up for steps, it was like I just went into this really intense routine, and my boyfriend was like, whoa, like he even noticed it was like there was no deviation, whereas there's a little bit more flexibility in a build, but there still has to be the same intent into getting strong, building work capacity, nailing your food, building food up as high as you can without tipping too far away from the scale.
Keeping quality of food.
Sleep. Like they're still, I say to my girls, I'm like, it's the exact same process. The only thing that changes is of how much.
Yeah.
You still need to pre-plan your food. You still need to have a certain amount of meals in the day. You still want to prioritize, certain, carbs and fats or carbs and protein around your meals. Like there still needs to be a performance aspect and a organization aspect so that when you do start dieting, the only thing that really changes is less food and a little bit more output, let's say. And so it's not this like flip and flop because then people don't know how to bridge one thing to the other, and after the diet, now you've got to bridge back to maintenance and then back into a build, and that's where people fall apart because they're too disjointed in the fact that it's the same fucking process.
Yeah, and it's really, really bad in powerlifting as well. Like obviously, it's different nutrition for sports performance versus at like an aesthetic look that people are looking for. Powerlifters don't care if they get fatter in the off season the way that it will impact like a bodybuilder, but they really flick switches like quite aggressively rather than like my analogy I like to use is like just dimming the knob. There's certain
shifting
points
gears or something like that.
Exactly. It's like it's not a matter of like, all right, 12 weeks out prep, I'm going to start hitting singles, blah blah, nutrition's on, and then all right, post comp, all right, I don't really care about this anymore, nutrition's off. And unfortunately we see that yo-yo effect quite often, and it really only is the people that are at the top that take it more seriously, more consistently.
But you have to because it's so much more. It's
level
so much harder. Like think about for you to improve by 1% what you have to do it.
Yeah.
You know, in so many different aspects of your life. And I think it's a funny thing. I always think about like people that have potential versus people that work hard.
Yeah.
Like hard workers will always overtake potential.
Yeah.
Because I think people that see they've got potential, they're almost lazy
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, it's like gifted to them a little bit.
It's too gifted. It's versus someone that's like really starting from the bottom and is really intentional, or even just has that really big focus and discipline. They become so process driven.
Yeah.
And then once they've got the process, they apply a little bit more effort, and they're always trying to refine versus someone that's like, sometimes I'm in, sometimes I'm out.
Yeah.
You know, that motivational
We were talking about
wave.
you a little bit with Bass on like your work ethic. Not like, because obviously, you know, we don't live with you, we don't see what you're like 24/7, but you know, we've done a couple of sessions together and stuff, and just seeing how fucking hard you work. And we were talking about like, he used Hapthor and like saying how he's just an absolute animal and everything is just so perfect all the time. And I'm like, I would love to see you and Hapthor like doing a session together and just seeing Bass is like, nah, Hapthor's like next level. Like he's like, I know Hattie, she trains hard, but I'm like, I'd love to see you guys like going at it. I mean, like he eats like, you know, a house full and stuff like that, but I'd love to see, you know, and it's one of those things, I guess, you know, he used the saying that like, you're a result of your 5 closest people around you and stuff like that. So it's just really cool when you have, I know you and Coben train a lot together and stuff and push each other a lot. So, just the work ethic that you have, we see very, very few people come in here and have that attitude, and it is a shame, but, you know, you train very fucking hard, and with a lot of intent, every set, every session. So
I think that's something that you have to mature into.
Yeah.
You either mature into it, or you just have to love going there with yourself.
Yeah.
Like I find it so hard to pull back on a session. Like week 1, it's always like, be conservative, and I always fail. I'm like, I'm really like wrestling with myself, because there's parts of me that's like, I don't want to leave a session knowing I could have done more, but sometimes you have to go into a session knowing you can do more. And it's this mature thing that you learn to do over time. Like you're not going to failure.
But it's a different sport.
It's a different sport.
I was about to say that. It's the bodybuilders that I've trained who have a competitive history in bodybuilding that come over to powerlifting and give powerlifting a shot. They usually do well because muscle mass is pretty fucking important for lifting heavy weights. Who knew?
Yeah.
But
who would have thought?
Yeah, I know. It's out there. But one of the things that they tend to struggle with a lot is that it's just
holding back a little bit.
And I just have to explain it. And this is how I explain to all my clients. But when we're doing a squat bench deadlift or a squat bench deadlift variant, close variant, we want to treat that like a skill, like learning to
skill acquisition.
Yeah, learning to ride a bike or play a game or whatever it is. Like at first, you got to like start at a low intensity to bring those skills up. And like most of the sessions that we do, even throughout a prep, are that. Just like we're keeping a few reps in the tank and we're staying a little bit more conservative so that we can come back the next week and capitalize on that. And then we'll have exercises in the program that have a different intent, that have an output intent that's going to go hard, build muscle.
Yeah.
But a lot of the bodybuilders I've trained really struggle to separate that in their mind, and they're like,
"Yeah, okay,
I can't do an easy set of 3. Like I got to go fucking hard," and they just can't. And
I think that was my battle with Bass a lot. He would always be like, "No, that's good here. We're good here," and I'd be like, "I can do more." And it was, you know, and he'd say, "More is not better." And
exactly, yeah.
And I really had to learn that over time. And then obviously, like, you know, when I go to do my accessory work, I could, you know, go to town, but knowing that like each week, then as you know, your strength block gets heavier. And then you got to go. It's like it really became a really great challenge towards the end.
Yeah,
yeah. I think if you start to understand the intent and like start to really plant it in your mind when you're training, like, what am I trying to get out of this set? So you might do a set of 5 at 100 on a squat, whatever, and for you that's a few reps from failure. Yeah, you could have done 110 or 120 or 130 or whatever, but I guess the question that I get people to ask is like, would that like tick the box that we're trying to get today any better? And a lot of the time the answer is like, no.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, it's hard enough to get the result that we're going for. So like harder is as you said, it doesn't yield a better result.
And I think the thing about strength training and the thing I love about strength training is it's such a skill acquisition. Like putting a really heavy bar on your back or pulling it from the floor is really fucking scary. And the other is, if you're doing it with poor technique or you're doing it close to failure, how do you build confidence? You don't, because it's like, am I going to get it? So that beautiful, periodizing effort, as Bass and I like to say, is that also builds the confidence to be able to go, well, I have a little bit more in the tank the next week and the next week. Because if you keep breaking down, how excited are you to go back under the bar?
Absolutely.
You're
a lot of people
not.
run into that. We talked about, I did a mentorship call this morning on peaking, and we're talking about one of the biggest mistakes people do is just like putting a foot down way too early, because then you get. Have you actually done a powerlifting prep?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask, like, what your strength history is.
Because just if you did, you'll understand that, like, if you're 6 weeks out and you're coming into a comp, you start a little bit further, and then usually you ramp up your singles and kind of get closer and closer to failure, and then usually around like 3-ish weeks out, 2 weeks out, you'll hit like your heaviest one for the prep, and then you'll pull back so you're recovered for the day. But a lot of people, as soon as I write like singles in the program, light singles, they'll be like, oh, fucking singles, let's go.
Yeah.
And then they'll hammer it at 6 weeks out. And then at 5 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, and 2 weeks out, it's like, okay, well, you're not fucked, but like, you don't want to say that, because then it's a real downer.
Yeah.
But
I'm excited to get to this show.
you make the process a little bit harder for sure, because now we have to go like back down and then back up and then back down and then maybe back up, rather than being a nice linear, like, let's just
progression.
Go. Yeah.
So what is your history in strength training? Like, you've not competed before. I know you've hit heavy ass fucking singles, like 145 squat.
150 was my max.
150?
Yeah.
In sleeves too?
Yep.
Yeah.
In sleeves. 160 was my sumo deadlift, and 150 was my conventional deadlift.
Yeah.
I've never done a powerlifting comp, but I
trained singles though.
Yeah, I've trained singles, and I really enjoyed that. Yeah. It's funny because I'm like, I'll say, oh, I love singles, but then I love volume, and then I love heavy volume.
Yeah.
I just like really hard training. But the thing I love about training in general is, like, it is such a skill.
Yeah.
And look, due to my back injury, I haven't been able to squat. Like, I put some sumos in this year, but I noticed I was still too cautious. It wasn't for risk to reward.
Yeah, of course.
It was too risky. But once I've, finished my competitive career in fitness modeling and bodybuilding, then I would like to venture over into
do some strong.
Like next year, I'm going to take a whole year off from. I think that's the plan, to take a whole year off from competing and just get really thick.
Yeah, juicy.
Get home to roll me down the beach, so I don't have to get chafing when I waddle down. But I just want to put like a lot of mass on my lower body, and ideally the goal would be able to get back under the bar and squat and deadlift and get strong again. Because
I know I was teasing Coben about doing our Deadlift for Dogs event.
When is that?
That was a couple of weeks ago.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. I was teasing. I'm like, you should do it, because I know you guys.
We would love to do it. I
dogs.
promise you. Like, we would love to do it, and like that would be such a great charity to be a part of.
Yeah,
he loves a good send.
He does.
He does.
It's different though when he trains.
Competitive.
It's different when he trains in the like EMFs on the bumpers. Yeah. And I know he came in here and he's like,
I gave
fuck,
him shit
that
about that.
270 feels so much harder than what I'm used to training on.
Yeah.
I'm like, bumpers make a bit of a difference to calibrated plates. That's for sure.
But why do you? So if the primary goal is bodybuilding right now, physique. I mean, within the last few years especially, but the fitness industry has made us all aware, like, you don't need to do squat, bench, and deadlift, and like a couple of the science boys out there would say it's less optimal to do those compared to
hack squats
or
pendulums, whatever.
Yeah, dumbbell work. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, machines, because you're limited by your technical ability or by like other muscle groups in it, because it's a big compound lift. But why for you do you come back to it? Like, what makes you go like, because even then you're like, I got a back injury, but like, I want to kind of sneak sumos back in there. Like, you don't need to.
Yeah.
You absolutely have like literally no fucking reason to for your competitive goals anyway. So what brings you back to them?
The skill acquisition. I just love working on something. I love working on something that actually has nothing to do with the way I look and everything to do with how I show up and perform.
Yeah.
So that was the thing that really drew me to strength training in the beginning. It was how focused I had to be in that moment. Almost like so spiritual in a way that it was like I couldn't be on my phone. I had to think about and visualize how the fuck I was going to get that weight up.
Yep.
And how I was going to do that even better the next week and the next week. And so I'm always drawn back to that because it's so empowering. And I don't want to be consumed by the way I look. But, you know, there's times in the year where, yeah, that is important, but there's times in my life where it's not.
Yeah.
And I just want to be able to show up. And I love when I see a female, like men as well. Like when Coben squats and deadlifts, I'm like, baby. Whoa. But when I walk into a gym and I see a girl squatting and deadlifting, I'm just like,
you get the same sense.
I get the same sense.
Tingles,
Like,
you get
damn,
some tingles,
girl. You are looking good. Like I get this like, it's like this pride, like this sisterhood. I don't know, like it's just so cool because it does really require you to be so present. You can't be thinking about what you're going to eat. Like it doesn't work that way. It's not the same. And I feel really empowered by it. I love, like I said, the skill acquisition. I have built, I owe so much of my character to, and like a part of my identity really to strength training. I really noticed, and when I had to take that out, I was like, people would say, "Oh, you're so strong," and I'd be like, "I used to be," and I really wouldn't. I felt so guilty that in that moment, I wasn't strong. And that was interesting to go through. But I think it is actually for me, it was a bread and butter for building my physique because I did get strong. I could have a great outlet for it. I could use it for conditioning work. I could use it to build my body, and I used it to get strong, and I was empowered. And I think it really helped lead the way for a lot of women to be encouraged to get under the bar.
It's the door outside.
And to go into the weights room and not focus on the way you look. You know, something that I say in my seminars is the bar doesn't give a shit about how much you weigh or what you look like. It cares about what you're putting on the bar, how you're performing it. So, and I think that's a really empowering piece for men and women, especially as we go to build our bodies, because it can be so consuming and rigid and one-dimensional if all you're ever thinking about is how you fucking you look like. And I'm in the sport that cares about what you look like.
100%. Another thing to add on that as well is that, like, you know, aesthetically, you can when you're in a peaking phase see changes literally week to week, but you don't see that a larger majority of the year. You know what I mean? Like week to week, you don't see like, oh yeah, like this looks bigger, or this looks, you know, like, oh, I'm smaller here, or those sort of like changes that within your body composition. You do see that, or you can see that in weight training. So if you're the sort of person that does require, you know, that little sense of validation that you're moving in the right direction, like strength training can give you that. That, you know, even if it's 2.5 kilos, or maybe it moved faster or something like that.
You know what good squat? Yeah. You know when you've done a good squat, it feels so, you're like, oh, that felt good. Versus like when it doesn't, you're like, oh God.
Yeah,
100%. A tricky one today.
Yeah.
When was the first time that you remember doing like serious, like a squat, bench, deadlift? Like when was the time you started to jump into that?
Well, when I met Bass in 2014.
Okay, so before that you didn't do too much?
I did a bit of squatting, bit of deadlifting, but not that much.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
It wasn't until I met Bass 2014 that he literally, I just literally was his guinea pig in a way. Like, we would squat, bench, deadlift. We would put it in circuit work. You know, it was kind of like, he was like, oh, I've got a fitness model. So he knew I liked volume. So we would, like I said, we'd put it in circuit work. We'd use it in so many different ways. We had strength days, circuit days, you know. And that's like, I actually love benching. Yeah. But again, how much time I need to spend on it versus what needs to be done, it's not worth it for me right now. Yeah. But eventually, I'd like to go away and just say I've got a really good bench, and you know, and eventually I'd like to be able to, you know, do a powerlifting comp, and that's something Bass and I have spoken about for like the last 10 years. That
he's been trying to get you into it.
Trying to get me into it, but I am always either getting ready for a show or I'm fucking injured. So, I think, and you know, when we do our Train the Female Athlete seminars, just seeing the girls, all different backgrounds, moms, daughters, like sisters, first-time PTs, like all different age groups come in, and you see them under the bar performing either a weight they'd never lifted before or a weight that scared them or a weight that they used to do for a single, now for reps. And you just, the whole energy of that person changes.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's strength training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like strength to be strong in not just a physical manner, but a mental manner, because you have to have the mental mindset to be able to go there with yourself.
Yeah.
And the most beautiful thing that strength training gives us is what used to be your work set becomes your warm-up set. And you get this lovely kind of like folding of skill progression and evolution, and then your strength.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And then what you did for 1 RM becomes your 5 RM. And it's like,
yeah, that's what Mickey meant as far as it's more visual. It's easier
Yeah.
to see than,
Yeah.
oh, look, my arm's a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
and that's so, like, that's again, we see ourselves as we feel, not as we are.
Yeah.
So if you're having a shitty day, of course you're not going to see, all you're going to see is, you know, for a female, they're fat and watery, bloated, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And like,
Keep going.
versus like when you're under the bar, it's like, oh, I literally lift 2.5 kilos heavier this week.
Yeah.
So regardless of how you feel and you get on the bar and you do the thing, it's like, no, I'm actually stronger this week. You can't, it's like a running race. It's like, you can't take that away from yourself.
Bass actually mentioned, I don't know if it was in the podcast or just us when we were down there and we were just chatting, but he mentioned that in those seminars in particular, the female ones, that he has seen the audience change over time. As in, like, it used to be women that kind of were coming in going like, you know, like, I'm here to kind of learn it, but still really scared. So it was like an entry into it almost.
Yeah.
Whereas now he said, you know, it's not uncommon for him to run those seminars and some chicks they're pulling 150 or something. You know, it's like just like the evolution of, like, it's, I guess, more accepted and people are doing it. Women are doing it more, and you're seeing like the level before they get to that seminar, like rising, like the average is rising, I guess.
The average, like, it used to be like 100 kilos on the bar. Now it's like 120, 140.
Yeah.
Some of the girls lifting 160.
Yeah.
Like, and even the guys that come in,
they're heaps stronger.
So much stronger. Like, they come in and, you know, they're like a bit timid at front, and then you get them under the bar and they're getting excited by the girls, and, you know, they're there with their partners, and it's like another one of the reasons I want to get back into deadlifting is because I want to do a deadlift day with my partner. I want to go and do like a heavy deadlift day with him.
Yeah.
You know, and just sit on the platform and rip into it. You know, so
nothing better than a heavy deadlift.
Oh my God. I think
coming
deadlifts
from
are
you
so
too.
empowering.
Coming from you.
Yeah, everyone
deadlifting's so empowering.
It's such an easy barrier to entry though. It's not
as scary as putting a heavy bar on your back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's why we started our first comps here as like the deadlift for dogs. Like last year, that was our first ever meet, because a lot of the people that are members of our gym were commercial gym goers that had never really got into powerlifting, strength training, or anything like that. So for us getting them into like a competitive side in that regard, we had to lower the barrier to entry. Like, we had to just go like, well, instead of the scary bar on your back when you've only just got into strength training for the first like 6 months, why don't we just put the bar on the ground, you pick it up, you know, there's no judgment.
Easier entry point,
it's much easier. It's much easier for them to prep for, and then it gives them that sense of confidence. Like, I've never competed before. Fuck, like, all of them straight after that, like, I want to do a 3-lift novice comp. Like, I want to go in there and I want to start actually like doing more.
Addicted to the strength.
Yeah, they started to get really addicted to it because there was, you know, they understood what having a competition and a goal and something to work towards, and having more intent. The camaraderie in the gym here changed massively. Like, the whole culture, the whole environment changed because everyone was working towards the same thing. There was like competitiveness, but it wasn't this toxicness of like, what do they look like? Oh, that sort of thing. It was more like, oh, fun. Fuck yeah, they're going to lift that and I'm going to GM on with that as well. So it's
the camaraderie.
It's the culture is like, I've done a couple of bodybuilding shows, but so I can't really speak from experience in terms of what the culture and stuff like that. Like for me, my experience wasn't phenomenal. I didn't have a lot of people coming up to me in the back going like, hey, like, I've not seen you before. Like, who are you? Rah, rah. Whereas here, like, people that I don't even know come up to me and they're like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, I saw you lift that. Or like, you know, they want to work in and train with you and warm up with you and stuff. So for me, it's just the whole atmosphere is very, very different. Not to say that one's better than the other, they're just different. So yeah, like that's personally why I love powerlifting and the strength community in general, is that it's that, like I said, that sense of camaraderie, and the competition is like a positive sort of thing, rather than like, you know, the cattiness that can come out from time to time.
You know what? Like I do think that the fitness industry, like at fitness shows, from my experience, has been a lot of camaraderie now.
Yeah.
When I first started 13 years ago, it was like, everyone was like,
everyone's there for their own reasons.
And that's fine. Like that's also fine.
Yeah.
But I think now it's just, it has changed a lot, which is great. And I think we've more than ever, we've come to realize how important community is. If you think about the community that you've built here, like for some people, you're the only place that they can relate to in this realm that they're in, you know, this powerlifting realm, or maybe they've come here for the first time to go to the gym and their partners don't, or their friends don't. And so actually, like, this space for them means a lot, because they're coming here 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah. And spending 4 hours here.
And spending 4 hours here. Oh my God. Strength training requires a lot of hours.
Yeah,
I would be at the gym for like 3.5 hours.
It's like an hour. It's an hour to warm up and get ready to actually start lifting, and then an hour and a half before you can leave, because everyone's been chewing your ear off.
Especially for you guys, because you like, own the gym.
Yeah, yeah.
What like when you're talking about like people here being maybe a little bit more intimidated, or even the earlier days when you run those seminars and people maybe like kind of, you know, not as experienced as they are these days, like what were the common things that were coming up with people being, that were holding them back from doing squat, bench and deadlift? Or I'm sure like even today, if you posted up, if you went and did a heavy squat set right now and then posted up, I'm sure in the comment section we could find a few people being like, is that not good,
that
not good for you?
Yeah, is that bad for your back?
Is that bad for your back?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are
that one.
What do you think is holding people back from doing, like getting into squat, bench, deadlift? Like what common things did you hear?
Look, I think for females, you know, some breast implants for one thing, it doesn't feel good. The other is I think it seems like more of a masculine kind of exercise versus like a squat and deadlift, which is like build your booty, you know. So it doesn't, squats and deadlifts still have that buy-in of building the lower body versus bench, which is like, guys mostly bench.
Yeah.
But I do, and I think in the beginning it just wasn't as common. There wasn't as many influencers or fitness inspirations that were going in and doing squat, bench, and deadlift. Like people are sheep. Yeah. So if they see their favorite influencers doing X, Y, and Z, it's either good or it's bad. Like if it's to something positive, great. If it's something not so positive, it's, you know, detrimental. But now as a whole, it's like we're seeing some pretty phenomenal females and males, you know, natural or enhanced, do some really amazing numbers, and that's inspiring.
Yeah.
And then it's more talked about. I think there's obviously more powerlifting gyms available now.
Yeah. Way bigger sport than it was, for sure.
There's better coaching as well.
Definitely.
There's better programming.
Yeah.
I really think that for females in particular, the strength movement has allowed women to be like, oh, you don't have to do, you know, dumbbells and high rep. It's like
stick into the female corner of
it really it's not just cardio. It's like it really has opened the floor and invited women to go, well, actually, let's get strong. And for older females, we now see that the research is the best thing for them for longevity, health, and bone density is your 1 to 6 rep ranges, which now, but you can't just go into 1 to 6 reps. You have to learn how to do that. So because otherwise we need the women, we need to have confidence in in order for them to do it and to buy into it, because something that we talk about is training morale. Training morale brings effort, right? It brings consistency, it brings longevity. So if someone's been told this is the best rep range, but they're too scared to do it, how often are they going to do it? And how likely are they going to do it at the percentage of strength or maximal effort that they need to then get the benefits from it?
I think the other scary thing as well is like they do have a look at some of the elite level women.
Some people would see you and go like, yeah, nah. Like, like, yeah, you're doing this weight, and that's obviously like well off where they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, elite people in powerlifting, and then just go like, that's
you
far
got
away. Where
chicks
do I
now
start?
squatting well over 200 kilos.
Oh my God. It's
just
crazy.
intense. But also, and like, don't get me wrong, I live in the sport, but aesthetically, some of those women, they're not as feminine.
Yeah.
Right. And so it could be a little bit of a turn off for others. But there are so many more women out there. Like you said, like the barrier to entry now, you got like at your seminars, chicks pulling 120 to 140.
And they're just your everyday gal.
Everyday looking gal. Exactly. And I think that's one of the other things is like I'm going to get big and bulky and whatever. And it's like,
tell me your secret.
You try to get
tell
big
me
and bulky. Like,
I want to know.
Get bulky
what do you want?
Year round for over a decade now. And like, look at you. You're still like, a petite, tiny little, not like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, you're still very feminine with the intent of doing a lot of, strength training and stuff like that over the decade. So I think it's just overcoming that stigma of it as well.
Yeah,
like,
there is still some stigma around like girls being scared to get too big.
Yeah.
And look, the truth is there are some women that do hypertrophy a lot quicker than others.
Yeah.
But there are also people that don't know how to control their eating. So if you don't want to get too big, you got to control your eating. It doesn't mean you can't push intensity and you can't get strong. So I think it's just, again, miseducation or misinformation, and then not able to put that into a sequence of actions.
Yeah.
I think is the missing piece for a lot of people.
What would you say to a lot of these people that are wanting to get into it? Like, how would you step them into?
How do you start?
How do you step them into?
You doing 150 kilos and going like, well, that's impossible, so I'm not going to try. I guess what's the entry point? Like, I'm still sure, although you said the average has come up, I'm still certain that you get at least a few complete newbies come to those seminars and that are just wanting to start.
That are just obsessed with you and want to learn your ways.
Yeah, I mean,
Bass's ways.
The thing I always try and remember, always trying to remind people is, like, taken me 16 years to do this.
Yeah.
I think what's hard is that we see people as they are, not as they were.
Yeah.
And I always try to remind them that I started with 5x5 at, my body weight.
Yeah.
And at that time, that was impressive, like 60 kilos. I was lifting 60 kilos on my back.
Yeah.
And then each week I added 5%, the same thing that we're going to do here. We're going to, periodize that effort. And like, you really have to take them through like a step-by-step process and like little mini milestones.
Yeah. Celebrate those wins.
Like, that I think is that what robs people of even starting is they compare themselves to who someone is 10 years later versus where they started now, because there's just no way. Would I look like this, or would I have been as strong as what I was in my peak without starting with body weight? Actually, body weight, then the bar. Like, and that's what we do when we do our warm-ups. We always say, I don't care how strong you are, you start with body weight squats.
Yeah.
I don't care how strong you are, you're starting with the barbell.
Yeah.
Like, and so try to neutralize, like, instead of being like, you're up here and I'm here, we neutralize the process of, hey, we're all starting like that. And then we add this weight and we perfect practice makes perfect. And trying to just encourage people that it is where you start from is not where you're going to stay.
Yeah.
Where you start from is where you start from. And the world is your oyster and how far you want to take it. It's funny because when I started strength training, there was no way that I thought I'd ever be able to lift 150 kilos on my back. I kind of thought, I could squat double body weight. But then past that, and I remember hitting 120, which was double body weight at the time for one. I remember saying to Bass, I want that for 10.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't for like another 6 years later that I could get, or 5 years later that I could get 120 kilos, which was one arm for 10 reps versus sets of 10 reps.
Yeah.
And that's kind of something that I've always loved about strength training is like you get that one and then you go, but what if I could do it for 2?
Yeah.
What if I could do it for 3? What if and then this, and then it accumulates and it becomes a game.
Yeah.
Yeah. A game of progression.
But that's what it should all be, whether it's bodybuilding or powerlifting. Gamifying it.
Yeah, gamification always gets people with high effort.
That's why I think, like, I don't know in fact people what the apps are, but like on MyFitnessPal, when I used to use it back in the day, like the streak would be there, and you'd be like, fuck yeah, log my food.
Yeah.
Oh my
God. I think your streak now is that you've not used MyFitnessPal in probably close to a decade since your bodybuilding.
So funny.
I remember, that you said that feeling of like, oh, I don't know if I could do that weight, like the 150 kilos. I remember when I first got into powerlifting, I used to get my programming written at like 12-ish weeks at a time, and it would be percentage based. So like by the final week, like there'd be like a set of 3 at X weight. And I remember always skipping forward and having a look and going like, fuck, there's no way, man. No way I can do that. And then sure enough, it's different these days because as you progress, it gets slower. But sure enough, I'd get 10 weeks in and then I would do it. And I'd be like, oh, that wasn't that bad.
I got there.
Maybe I am strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember even going back way further when I very, very first started in the gym. I remember benching 60 for the first time, and I was like amazed. I was like,
I am a god.
Yeah. I was like,
Chicks
this is
love me.
incredible.
Yeah. 3, and then you hit 3 biscuits. When
I hit my first 140, geez, I remember the gym, the day, the vividly, like,
I love that.
Yeah.
because I remember because it's a big deal, right? 3 plates in a commercial gym. You know, you're like, you get up there.
You get up and you look around. You're like, who else saw that? Did anyone else?
Guys, I'm going. Get around, people.
You just look at everybody and go, like, I own you all.
Yeah.
I now own this gym. Yeah, please put the deed over into my name.
Yeah,
please.
put the stringers on as well. That was just stringer days for sure.
No, that was stringer peak.
Nutrition Warehouse stringer days.
Oh my god, the best.
But I remember doing it, and it was like the grindiest, crappiest. Not a chance it would ever pass in competition rep.
Yeah.
But just so happy with it. So
doesn't
I wish
Nobody
social
cares
media
at the
was
time.
a thing, and everybody, because I would have got it on camera, but I just have to remember it.
We do actually have on camera you doing a sumo deadlift in squat shoes.
Fuck yeah.
Oh my god.
Stringer, squat shoes, 260, I think it was.
And I think you had the belt that like tapers in as
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
and the padding on the back.
Yeah, so good.
It's like a mini little 85 kilo girl.
Perfect technique. The worst technique you've ever seen.
Oh my god, I look at my old squats and I'm like dive bomb, my head's down. It's like a baby giraffe, like walking
that's
for
the
the
thing,
first
right?
time.
One of my old coaches used to call me Bambi behind my back to Will because my knees would like buckle in and like touch each other. They still kind of do a little bit, but
I think these are all good examples of like you look back and you're like, oh, holy crap! That
I wish I had all my videos.
Yeah.
Like how bad was that technique? Well, that's what you're saying now because obviously you know better and you progressed. But when you're at that level, when you're not strong yet, like you get away. Like your inefficiencies hold you back from hurting it. Like if you be an idiot and do enough stupid stuff, you'll absolutely put yourself at risk of injury. But for the most part, like your inability to execute efficiently and just not being strong yet holds you back a lot from getting injured.
Yeah, I agree.
So like it's
You're
kind of
just
like
so
this
new.
inbuilt.
Yeah.
So like
It's like a baby.
Your body doesn't know better any better.
Babies like fall over and they get up and it's like, oh, okay, where's
Do
your
it
fall
again.
over now?
Yeah.
You're just like, fuck, my knee, blown out.
Yeah, so that's my
You're so
advice
much
to
more
people.
cautious now, I think.
Yeah.
It's like,
Special
versus-
snowflakes.
Yeah.
Kinda. Like I think the best people I've trained are the ones who have maybe done bodybuilding or maybe done other sports where they weren't focusing on the perfect squat, the perfect deadlift, but they were like, they learned to fucking go. Or they learned to put in the effort. And then when they come over to powerlifting, fix a little bit of inefficiencies here, and all of a sudden they're just like blowing up.
Yeah.
So I don't think
You can get away with a lot.
Yeah, when you were saying before about newbies being scared because they're not like perfect or whatever, like don't be. Just start. Start and learn.
Yeah.
Like
I do love the analogy you said about neutralizing it though, because like everyone, doing the body weight, doing the barbell, like just lowering that
I'm
barrier
not saying
to
don't
entry.
try. But just be okay with like, oh, my knees came in a bit. Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, what's that, annihilation, you over focus on something and you completely annihilate.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I think that's,
overthinking.
that overthinking process where you're just like fixating on something. It's like, actually, it's not bad. Like, sure, we want to improve it, but like to rob yourself completely of any sort of progression. It's like people that are like, I don't want to go heavier because my technique's like, if it's like your knees aren't going to be perfect the whole time, like,
and your technique breaks down as you
get stronger, like, and then you refine it, and then you I think once you hit a certain point, it's like the incremental increase of progression or technique is so much smaller versus like obviously in the beginning it's like kind of clunky and then you seem to do this and then it kind of like levels out and it gets like that little bit harder, as you said.
Just more practice over time.
100%. But like if you have a look at like when Bass hit his 400 kilo squat, if you were to compare like his 400 kilo squat to his 300 kilo squat, like on the same day, his 400 kilo squat is going to look uglier than his 300 kilo squat on that same day because like when you're hitting those singles, like there's going to be a technical breakdown because it's fucking heavy, right? Like there's going to be a little bit of technical breakdown, but that's okay because like that's, you know, that's not where you start though. You know what I mean? Like that's going to get there in time if you ever decide to do a powerlifting comp or peak or do 1RMs or something like that. But you don't have to do 1RMs to get into barbell lifts at all. Like you don't, and I probably wouldn't even encourage most people in their first few months to year to hit a 1RM.
Not even the first year.
Yeah. Like, but everyone wants to though, right?
I was about to say, it's going to happen.
Or the lads.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I used to, when I did bodybuilding, I don't think I would have done it in prep because I probably would have been too fucked. Like straight up.
Yeah.
But I think during our off season, we used to literally max our squat weekly. It was the dumbest shit I've ever did. But like, looking back on it, I'm like, what an idiot. But we did.
Well, you know better now.
Absolutely. I didn't. Well,
a decade in.
I didn't make any progress. I did 200 every week. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do 10 today, and then I'll do like 190, and then the next week I'm like 200, and I hit 200. I'm like, yes, okay, I'm going forward to 210 and 190 again. It's like, fuck.
My God.
It would just be this absolute just up and down because of the fatigue. But yeah.
I don't know why I did this, but I remember 2019. I just got back from the world titles, and I was like 56 kilos or something like that, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to chest my 1RM at this weight. And I was just like,
damn right.
You know, the squats were just feeling so good. This is like a week after the show. I'm like, and then I end up gaining like 135 kilos at 57 kilo body weight. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Like, I was just like, and then later I was like, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
What are you
look
doing?
back on it in hindsight now.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like it's kind of, it's not really, you look at that and you go like, that didn't help me.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like
fun.
you have to fucking.
I kind of just wanted to know where I was at.
Yeah, and you also just
fun.
need, it's not only a physical thing that we're chasing. Like you could say, yeah, they had no help on hypertrophy. Maybe it was like a little bit risky to do. I don't know. There are definitely ways you could criticize that. But mentally, I don't know, maybe it helped, you know, in the mental aspects of it. So like,
well, that prep, 2018. 2018, most of my preps for my shows, everyone except for 2017 and 2022, I squatted and deadlifted the whole way through.
Yeah.
And it's
funny. Is it just because you loved it?
Just because I loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. And muscle retention.
Yeah.
Like I was still getting stronger. I was, you know, I just play around with obviously volume and what I could recover from and then everything else that went into the mix. But I just loved showing up and feeling, you know, strong as I got smaller. And it's funny, so many people would be like, your waist, you know, it's going to make your waist thick. And I literally just was like, I'm purely going to do these 2 compound movements to show you that my waist isn't going to be thick because I'm doing these things.
I'm sure it would if you spent 50% of the workload in your program doing it.
It's like one piece, you know, 3 times. You know, I do front squat. I think I just front squat, low bar, and sumo or conventional deadlift throughout the prep.
Yeah,
and rotate through those 3.
A lot of people still do their sumos for booty gains, though.
Do you know what's interesting? When I do sumo at high rep, the thing that fucking kills the most my glutes.
Yeah.
And I get off and I have the biggest pump. It's not my quads. I like literally waddle off the thing and I'm like, oh my God, my glutes.
Yeah.
So I think like, and again, your insertion points, like your anatomy, like how long your femurs are and all that kind of stuff, and your hip sockets. Like for me, I loved sumos for my glutes. Yeah. But then the other thing is, it's not one exercise that does everything.
No, 100%.
You know,
so long as you're slamming some back extensions or something like that after, getting the big booty gains there, like whatever. Yeah. Back extensions are by far one of my favorite exercises for glutes.
Because you're good at them.
Yeah, I'm very good at them. So I know you were really good at them as well.
Yeah,
like
but since my fucking back It's like
Yeah.
changed.
You used to do like smash some Nordics and stuff like that
Oh,
as well.
I love
You were
Nordics
so
as
good
well.
at Nordics.
Mm.
Brutal.
I remember the first time I ever met you was when I was managing EMF way back in the day.
I'll never forget
and you
that.
walked
Your blue
in.
shirt.
Yeah, you walked in and like I didn't really know like anything about bodybuilding or WBFF, so I didn't really know who you were. But I'd seen you on Bass's footage and stuff because obviously like the strength scene was more what I was into, and I was like, oh hey, like I'm Mickey, and you're like, hi, like just here to train.
Hi.
I'm like, yeah, I know. I was like, oh, you I think you know my partner Will. Like he's the guy that beat Bass.
What an intro.
Good introduction.
I was like, oh, he's the guy that beat Bass, and you're like, oh my god, your partner is a walking fridge.
No, you remind me of the Hulk.
Yeah, you did. You called him You called him a walking fridge, though.
Did I?
Absolutely, I love that.
Now people still call him a fridge, though. Like he does some kettlebell arm swings or something like that, and I think Alex uploaded a little
Rolling
video
fridge.
of the rolling fridge.
How funny.
Rotating fridge.
But
it's funny how in bodybuilding and powerlifting, like, you know, quote unquote insults like that are compliments. Like when people go in like on the Instagram, they look at like one of your super lean ones and they're like, that's disgusting. And you're like, why, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm shredded.
Yeah,
like
I appreciate. Oh my god, all those.
I always love the ones like
striations.
you look better on the left when I was chubby.
Yeah.
Why, thank you.
Why, thank you. Why, thank you.
And then you're like, this is a competition. Like I do that as a sport. It's not. It's,
do I want to look like this year round?
My
Probably
goal is to
not.
win, not please you.
It's so funny, like because last year I was ready for so long. Everyone's like, "Are you happier like that?" I'm like, my happiness isn't determined by like how lean I am or not. I'm like, it was just so funny the questions that I would get asked is like, "Is life better or do you prefer it like this?" And it's like, you have no idea what I've got to do to get this lean.
Yeah.
Like, and even though I can do it
sucks.
easily. It's a shit ton of my time.
Yeah.
It's like
The
a certain amount of
sacrifices
cardio, steps, fucking training, then eating. Like, it's just when people people just have a really warped idea of what it takes for most people to be really conditioned.
Yeah.
And they don't have it in them. I'm sorry. And this is a question I ask myself all the time is if you knew exactly what you had to do every single day to maintain a level of, let's say, your ideal physique. Do you would it be worth it? Is it worth it? And most people in the beginning, I think, would say yes, and then like they'd get to a point where it's like, no. Like
it's the same as anything in life. Like if you want to be,
everything comes
rich,
at a cost.
I'd like there's massive sacrifices with that.
Yeah, but it's like you have reward and you have a cost to it.
And it's funny when people say like, are you happy like in your conditioning, how lean you are? Like, no, I'm fucking miserable right now. Like I'd probably rather eat a block of like I know when Will's in prep, it's like, oh, how do you feel? I feel like shit. Like
I'm tired and all my joints hurt.
Yeah.
And I'm like, counting down the days to comp. It's a little bit different in powerlifting.
It's like, are you happy? No, not really, but I also fucking love this. Like I actually love this feeling a little bit, and I love the day.
Like you said, the suffering a little bit. It's like it switches you on.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be fun.
It's like passionate and everything's so purposeful. Like there's intent in everything, and
some people have that drive, some people don't, and it's okay. Like,
or they have it in a different.
They have something.
They have something else that they do that in.
Yeah.
But the thing about bodybuilding or doing a sport is it really does teach you a level of discipline. And a level of resilience.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's missing for a lot of people that kind of just cruise through life and wonder why they're not really achieving anything.
Yeah.
It's like you kind of have to build these qualities in order to have them. If you're not putting yourself under the pressure
challenges
and set those challenges for yourself or quit every time it gets hard, how the fuck do you think you're going to be mentally strong?
Yeah.
I still have a lot of lessons that I think I wouldn't have like got anywhere else other than a bodybuilding prep. That I like
how to handle hunger.
First, like when I did my first powerlifting comp, not that I recommend this to anybody, but I cut like I think it was 6 kilos in the last week, like a water cut.
Jesus.
To make weight.
How's performance?
Yeah, he weighed in.
It actually went really good.
Well.
Oh my god.
Nudie doodle out.
Actually went great, but I wouldn't recommend it because I'm not.
It was very dumb.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. But because the previous year I did whatever it was, a few bodybuilding comps and suffered for like 6 months, like a week of suffering. everybody else would be like complaining about it. I'm like, a week.
I've been doing this for 6 months, guys.
Are we,
This is sweet.
like I've
6
been
days is
way
nothing.
hungry
Yeah.
in this for months, let alone like hungry for a week.
Well, you were on like 1,200 calories when you were dieting as well.
Yeah, back in the
Fuck.
I got
Natty boy
really,
days.
I've
really.
never had to do that.
Yeah, I went super low. Looking back on it, absolutely
Dumb.
not the most smart way to prep for bodybuilding, but you know,
You got lean.
you learn.
Yeah.
But
You
yeah,
learn.
I definitely learned suffering from
Yes.
bodybuilding. Like I learned how, you know, people in powerlifting go like, oh man, how hard it's like coming and doing a session. And there are like aspects to it that make it hard in different ways.
Executing
remember,
things
like,
when you are fatigued and stuff
Being
like that.
so tired, like hardly getting out of bed, but then like going to the gym and doing cardio or
The sprint track.
doing sprints. Oh my God, hill sprints when you're absolutely
Oh
death.
my God.
And then the training, the mental. I was also going backwards with my numbers a lot, which obviously
Yeah.
you said it's different for you, so you're clearly doing it better than me. But
I had better coaches,
like,
I think.
yeah, but you know, there were a lot of those things that just like you just get up and do it that made powerlifting. I don't want to say easy, but way easier.
Yes.
Like these lessons they carry over. So I think if or when you do powerlifting, when that time comes,
Walk in a park.
it'll be easy. It'll be harder. It'll be hard in different ways.
Yeah.
Different ways for sure. But
Yeah.
like all these lessons that they absolutely carry through.
Yeah.
I honestly, when I go to watch the powerlifting comps, I used to love watching you and Bass. It was so like the pro raw.
Yeah.
Did you come to those?
Yeah.
Which ones?
I went to so many. Like
20. She came to 2019.
Okay.
You were
I
there
went to
in
like
2019
2 or 3 of
and
them at
2018.
least.
Pro Raw 9
I swear,
and 10, I
like-
think you were there.
Yeah, 9 was best.
Yeah.
I'm like, how the fuck do you guys squat in front of everyone?
Yeah.
Like everyone's like, you're in a bikini.
How do you
in front of-"
pose in front of
That's
everyone?
it. But I'm
Yeah.
like, just like, it's
Yeah.
that for me just gives me
Yeah.
anxiety.
Yeah, but when you're on stage, you're looking at people's faces going like, oh, hello. Like, you know,
Well, you are. You're looking at
Yeah,
the
I am.
judges.
these days maybe because you're a bit more confident. But when you
Yeah.
first started, like it's tunnel vision. It's,
I remember.
oh, my left foot goes in front of my right foot and then twist this, turn that on, whatever. Like it's a
Yeah.
it's a step by. It's the same with me in a squat. I walk up to a bar, I put my left hand, I put my right hand. Like I'm not worried about.
What anyone else
Oh,
is.
hey Ricky, yeah, so I'm about to squat this weight. Yeah.
Watch
Make
me.
sure you get the good
Everyone.
angle. So yeah, I'm just worried
signs up,
about.
everyone. I'm going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's different. It's just tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember Pro Raw 11. That was the bigger head to head
The last
between
one,
you.
yep.
Yeah, between you and Bess. That was the last expo show.
Yeah.
And you were, I remember
I was there.
seeing you there at that. And I remember walking up to you because you were at the Muscle Nation. They had the huge stand
Yes,
set
as
up
they
there,
do.
as they do. And like you were talking and getting photos with everyone on that stage. And I was like, are you not fucking exhausted, man? You're like, no, I love this.
Oh yeah, I
It's
do.
so much
I feel
fun."
so like
You were like in another world. I was like, what the fuck is this chick on, man? Like, I need
I honestly,
Pre-workout, 7 pre-workouts.
it's like I miss expos.
You go into
I
another
do too.
planet,
I
man.
I wish they were.
You were so
It's-
high energy then.
Yeah, I just that's the fact that someone has taken time out of their day to come see me.
Yeah.
How could I not feel eternally grateful?
Yeah.
And that's the same thing I think on social media. I'm like, anyone like it takes someone, especially with the attention span that we have now.
Yeah.
Takes someone
5
a
seconds.
couple of minutes to read a post or listen
Yeah.
to a story and then engage back to it. And I think
Yeah.
you've just taken time out of your day to talk to me. And I'm
You
like,
look better on the left.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. You look, thanks, baby. You know, I just feel so grateful.
Yeah.
And it's funny because people, you know, be like, oh, you're probably a bot on my Instagram. And I was like, I literally try and speak to absolutely everyone that messages me. Like
Yeah,
I
100%.
really make an effort to not be a bot and not like just make it a business page. I started
Yeah.
social media as a way of just sharing stuff. Never
Well,
for
I know
business.
Eugene's a lot like that as well. Like
Mm.
Eugene Teo does so much stuff messaging people, replying to all
Replies
the
to everyone.
comment. He replies to
Fucking hell.
everyone, man. I'm like, dude, you have a baby and like
I
you
know,
know,
little
focus on her. And he's like, yeah, like he's in Hawaii at the moment.
Nice, nice, back.
Oh, is he back? He is back now,
Mhm.
yes. But yeah, I was just like, you've just had a baby and you're going over to Hawaii right now and you're still like spending so much time doing all this sort of stuff. He's just like, he loves it as well though. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Anyways, major derail, totally
Yeah.
off topic. But You didn't have any other questions or anything like that?
No, I think we're good. There's a lot of good lessons in that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people can take a heat from that.
Well, thank you very much, Hattie, for coming on.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Finally having
Always
you
an
on.
honor.
You literally live right around the corner from us as well.
I know, but you've been away. I've been away. We've all been
so much
traveling.
When you do hit this powerlifting comp eventually, we'll have to get you back and talk through.
Yeah, well, I'll probably come in.
Process.
I'll probably come in and train here. This is where I'll probably do the training. I think.
Yeah.
You know what? To be honest, like, I really miss Sydney because I miss my mentors. I miss Tony like crazy. I miss Bass like crazy. I realized, like, when I moved away, how much of my time I actually spent with those people.
Yeah.
And how much of an impact they made on me as a person through character, through you know, how I coach, how I received coaching, and yeah, I haven't really like come to terms with the fact that I don't like. I feel unsettled on the coast because I love mentors.
Yeah,
I love learning from people. I'm so happy not to be the smartest person in the room. I'm so happy to be the dumbest person in the room and just continue to like listen and observe and learn and be a sponge and go, wow, oh my goodness, or okay, yeah, I've been doing the right thing. And I really do miss my mentors and a lot of the routine stuff that I have back home. But if I do a powerlifting comp and I'm still on the coast, I haven't managed to move myself back to Sydney, which is probably highly unlikely as Coben does not want to move to Sydney.
No.
I'll most likely be coming in
and
here.
Stuff here as well. So
yeah, my whole family's here. Everyone's moved up here. So
well, then the other choice is just make Bass move here.
Exactly.
Well, Will's literally around the corner. Will's doesn't quite have the gusto that Bass has. Bass has got some high gusto. That's
the energy brings the energy.
Yes,
doesn't he? I love it. He's so funny. He's one of my best friends. I love him to death.
Yeah, he's good value. Everyone thought that you and Bass had a bit of beef between each other over those competitive years, but it kind of played into it, and what's made the competition day so good.
That's the thing. Like on competition day, you're both there to win.
Yeah.
Like, but it's not an absence of dismissing anyone. Like, you're not going to come and be like, okay, we're friends. Let's just. It's like, no, you both worked your absolute ass off to get where you are, and may the best person that day win, and you both do your best. And I think, like, a bit of grunt in competition is good, but it's off outside of that, it's like you 100% respect each other. It's like with Steph and I'm like, I love you, like, but you bet on show day I want to beat you.
Yeah.
But that's not to dismiss anything outside of this, and I'm never going to badmouth you or anything. It's like, no, you were the best. You were the best on the day. Congratulations.
100%. It's the same. Like whenever Will pulled his last deadlift, Bass was always one of the first guys to shake his hand.
Yeah.
You'd see him charging across the
platform. Even when I really didn't want to,
waddling over.
Let me calm down, Jesus.
Yeah, you got off after that one of your last deadlifts, and you're like, oh, Bass is coming over, and you're like, oh, like still stomping around yourself.
Let the emotion just calm for a second. Jesus.
So,
at least you've got, a lot of support, and at the end of the day, like when you're at the top, like you are such an inspiration for those trying to be there.
Yeah.
And it goes one or two ways. There's people that pull people down from the top, or there's people that are so encouraged by those at the top. And I think all of us here are people that continue to be inspired by the people that do the great things before us.
Yeah.
And 100%. I think that's such a much better way to be.
And support those that are doing great things as well. Yeah. So, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks very much, Hattie. We'll put obviously most of the people listening to this would know who you are, but in our little bio thing, we'll chuck all your details and stuff in there. And thanks very much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. Be sure to jump on our website to find details on everything mentioned in the podcast today, plus information on our coaching, mentoring, and gyms based in the Gold Coast and Townsville. Make sure you follow us on our Instagram for any updates on what we are currently doing, and we'll see you all in the next episode.